Let's bring in Steve Palazzolo, our good buddy from Pro Football Focus, senior analyst there, host of the Pro Football Focus NFL podcast. What is Baker Mayfield worth right now based off of what happened this past season?
Yeah, it's a tough one because I think, Baker Mayfield, his evaluation just doesn't make sense. Like every time it looked like he should get better, they bring in OBJ. He didn't really get better. Then OBJ goes down and he has an excellent finish to his 2020 season. And then last year, Baker's playing hurt. And I don't, it affected him. It absolutely affected him playing, even though it's his non-throwing shoulder, playing through injury. It was the worst season we've seen of Baker Mayfield. And I do think between that and how outspoken he's been without necessarily backing it up from a production standpoint, I think NFL teams have soured on him. So I think his value's down right now. But he's also a guy that I would still want to take a shot on just because 2 out of his 4 seasons, his rookie year and then 2020, overall, he's looked really good in those particular seasons.
But is he worth the number one draft, first-round draft pick? 2 first-round draft picks?
All the leverage is gone now because people know he's on the block, right? I mean, he's not sticking around with Deshaun Watson there in Cleveland. So it's probably a mid-round pick at best. And we're running out of desperate teams as far as the quarterback carousel goes.
What about Jimmy Garoppolo? What's his value?
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy's another tough one, right? Because he wins a ton of games, and then you go back and you say, okay, he's been in Kyle Shanahan's system, and our grades, I think, do a pretty good job of kind of separating Garoppolo's performance from what the offense has done. It's always been one of the most productive passing games in the NFL when Garoppolo's been under center. But his last 2 full seasons, he was our 13th ranked quarterback in 2019 when they went to the Super Bowl, number 21 last year. But the stats are really good. So I do think, Garoppolo's value is probably a little bit higher. You're going to have 1 more year of his contract, but you also have to try to separate his production from Shanahan's system where Garoppolo's grades don't necessarily match up, with the stats. So he's a guy that you probably have to have a really good situation around him, much like he had in San Francisco. But I could see teams looking at Garoppolo a little bit, higher than Baker at this point. Maybe it ends up becoming a 2nd or 3rd round pick.
I know you grade rosters. So here we are. We're done with free agency for the most part. Which team improved their roster the most, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a quarterback-driven league that it is the teams that added the big-time quarterbacks, right? I mean, the Denver Broncos adding Russell Wilson. That wasn't all they did, though. Obviously, having Randy Gregory come in and re-signing a couple of their own. And the Broncos overall have made some excellent moves. But, of course, going from Teddy Bridgewater to Russell Wilson absolutely elevates their ceiling. The Indianapolis Colts, even just in aging Matt Ryan, has still played pretty good ball over the last couple of years, and you put him on a roster that probably should have been in the playoffs last year in Indianapolis. I think Ryan's going to play better than Carson Wentz, has a chance to elevate the Colts there. And, of course, the Browns. Even though outside of Amari Cooper, they haven't made a ton of other big splash moves or anything, but the Browns already had a really good roster, and you're going from Baker Mayfield's worst season to presumably whatever Deshaun Watson brings to the table, which should be much better.
You start to look at these teams that gave up their quarterback, like the Falcons. That's a bad team.
Yeah.
Are they one of the worst rosters, bottom 3-4 teams in the NFL?
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, over the last couple of years, we've seen their defense essentially get depleted. They have Brady Jarrett, they have A.J. Terrell, but not much else. Deion Jones is pretty good. Not much to build on the defensive side. And then offensively, everything's fallen apart there as well, where they have maybe the worst receiving core in the league, and they're just a couple of years removed from having Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley and Russell Gage over there. So it's a complete rebuild in Atlanta, which might not be the worst thing, right? You've got Tom Brady in the division. The Falcons, second-year coach and GM. It might be time for the Falcons anyway to start looking to 2023, 2024 for whenever Tom Brady moves on and think about competing in a couple of years rather than this year.
All right, we have a bet here in studio that there will be a quarterback selected the first 13 picks. Which side of the bet are you on?
Oh, I definitely think there will be. Yeah, I mean, you're looking at the Panthers at 6, the Falcons at 8, and then the Seahawks at 9. In this musical chairs of quarterback movement, they're left without a chair at the moment. And yeah, Garoppolo's out there. Yeah, Baker Mayfield's out there. But I do think the Panthers have been desperate. The Falcons, as I mentioned, they're in the middle of this rebuild. They probably want to find a guy in the Seahawks, right? I mean, I don't think they're going to hitch their wagons to Drew Lock. I think they're going to evaluate this class. So I think because of that, we are talking about quarterbacks going probably in the top 10, at least one or two, even though I don't think the NFL loves this quarterback class overall. I do think desperation will win and somebody will go in the top 10 or so.
Great to talk to you as always, Steve. We'll stay in touch. Thanks for joining us.
Yep, always a pleasure.
That's Steve Palazzolo, Pro Football Focus senior analyst there, and Pro Football Focus launching a 4-episode podcast series this April with the projected number 1 overall pick, Aiden Hutchinson. Subscribe to Hutch wherever you listen to podcasts there.